Morning, everyone. Back at it today, and load feels pretty good. About a half mile into it already. So it looks like today, back on the Van Fleet Trail, but we always call it Polk City Trail. That's why you hear some cows in the background. So today the backpack weight came in at 45 pounds, which is where I'm training at. As you can tell, I'm a little bit more winded, and I'm maintaining a little bit more of a brisker pace. But I've noticed something, man. This is fantastic. I didn't realize it, but I knew in my Army days that, man, you can breathe hard when you're rucking. But man, I'm telling you, since I've been training on the weekends and rucking with some more weight than my traditional backpack, that, man, my blood pressure's come down. Sometimes my blood pressure in the mornings is like 108 or 110, which is awesome. And it lasts. A good workout like today will last for days. And so I'm all for that. Maybe I might just continue doing this. It's seems to be very good. It's like a jog, but you're jogging for a couple hours. Okay. I like this little off trail right here because it gets you back in. It gets you back into the woods. But just want to do a little message to Bigfoot in Germany. Bob. Hey, I'm game, man. I'm definitely game to go to the Sierras if you want to do that. We'll work out some more details as time goes on, but I don't know exactly just when yet, but I'm all game for that. So, man, Sierras, high Sierras, definitely on my list of areas to go to. Whew. So as I take a few breaks every now and then, this video won't be just a boring watch Chris walk through the woods with a rucksack on. No, I'll take some of my time, and during my breaks along the way, I'm going to, explain what this RF stuff is all about, and hopefully I won't bore you with it. But try not to keep the camera so close to my face, but it's just way out there. But yeah, we'll talk about that when I'm taking some breaks. Maybe put some more details with it. Got a lot of questions on it, and some people were saying, yeah, duh, you gotta, you have a phone with you out there. Of course, I know there's a phone out there, and phones emit radio frequency. I am not oblivious to that. Of course I know that. But so some of these breaks I'll take, we'll explain this. Why we're doing it, what's the reason for it, and so forth. All right. I think it's funny. All the bicyclists, will just ride by, and they look at you like, dude, are you out of your mind? I don't know, I just got that, some of them give you that look. Like, what the heck are you doing? But, we're at 2.52 miles so far. And I'll probably end up doing a target maybe 5 miles today. I'm feeling pretty good still. So I'll probably get ready to hit a point, and I'll maybe turn it around, start heading back. I just want to stop and take a picture of this guy. That is a tortoise hole. He's probably still in there. Let's see if I can bend down. Or maybe not. I don't know. Nah. I don't think I see him in there, unless he's got it going sideways. And then there's another one sideways on that one. Man, tell you what, those guys, they're turtles and they move really slow, but if you mess with them and get near their head, man, they're like fast as a snake. If you watch a turtle head go after you, they're like quick as a snake. Funny, they move like a turtle though, you know, move real slow. Pretty funny. All right, I see my my little rest stop coming up. Take a seat. We're at 3.18 miles so far, probably 3.2 miles. Take a break. Talk about some of this stuff. All right, so I'm taking a break right here on the little bench house right here they have on the side of the trail. All right, so what is all this RF stuff going on? Some people are some people get it, some people are very confused with it, some people laugh at it. And so, but basically, in the area that we were going in, our phones would constantly just do crazy things. And what I mean by constant is when you go to an area, you know, enough times, you get an idea of seeing patterns. And so these patterns would emerge with our phones that I didn't see my phone doing it in other places that I normally carry my phone. So it just didn't do that. So I got curious on that. Was there a way to be able to measure what was going on with phones? All right, so I do realize with phones they emit radio frequency, of course, they're phones. But in order to interact with phones, good morning. The phone has to be interacted with physically by being on the touch screen. Good morning. There it is. Yeah, there it is. They see me making a video, so they got to be on the video. But so you have to interact with the phone either by physically touching the screen, or the phone is interacted with basically via radio signal remote. So I got curious about that, and I started to say, is there a way that we could maybe measure or capture what was going on? And so I had saw the Skinwalker Ranch series and knew that Travis was a physicist that is on the show, and Eric as well. Eric I believe he has a PhD, and so both of them were very interesting guys to follow and listen to them very carefully. So that's where I got the idea from, being able to take the tri-field meter along, because that was the instrument they was using. So I decided to use it for myself and to see if I could measure possibly what was going on in the area that we were frequenting also, because our phones also would do crazy stuff, like sometimes in tandem, in pairs, my phone would start misbehaving, Betty's phone would start misbehaving. Sometimes just as we were getting ready to get back at the vehicle, the phone would call somebody in my party. And so it was very fascinating to be able to try to find a device that could be able to measure what this phenomena was going on. So basically the process that I used, a lot of times what I would do is I'd be able to drive to this location, and I would have my phone, and my phone would be sitting near my stick shift inside my vehicle. And normally by the time we make it out to the location area, the phone would well be on its way of being on screen lock. And many times the phone was on screen lock, and a lot of times I just didn't, I would just grab my phone and put it in my pocket and not even turn it on or activate it at all or anything like that. So many times my phone would go into my pocket on screen lock. You're not supposed to be able to breach the screen lock without, and by that time that phone did not have facial recognition. You had to do, you had to hit the home screen, to be able to turn on and put in a quick little passcode, if I remember right, on the iPhone 6. Now I use an iPhone 13 Pro is what I'm using right now, so I haven't been out in the area that much to be able to see how its behavior is. And matter of fact, when I was out there with Chris Reinhardt, I still had my, when we did Skinwalker Swamp, I still had the iPhone 6 out there, and this is when we had very amazing things that happened to us. Very amazing things that happened to us out there in Creepy Hollow and also in the Knox Creek area. So that's pretty much why the basis of why we're doing it. We're basically doing it to collect data. So as I go out to New Mexico, I will also be taking the tri-field meter with me also, and I will be measuring radio frequency in location areas. I will be measuring the electromagnetism and electrical. So the meter measures three different means of this of the spectrums is what it will do, and it's all about collecting data. Just collect the data and let the data speak for itself. When phenomena happens going on around you, what I mean by phenomena, when your phones start all going crazy and bonkers, there's something going on. I mean, there's some type of frequency, there's some type of interference, there's something going on that's causing your phone to go on the internet and try to surf things and go access applications on its own. If you're not taking it off screen lock, something is interacting with it, or the phone is outright just misbehaving somehow internally, and it's wanting to do these things for a reason. But I've always said, if it wasn't something interacting with the phone in particular, why doesn't this do this with me normally when I have my phone with me throughout the day, or I'm walking around in Disney World, or just going anywhere, or any other hiking place for that matter? So that's what we're talking about, and it's collecting data, trying to measure the electromagnetic spectrum when it comes to when phenomena happens. Some of our observations that we recorded out in Knox Creek area in Creepy Hollow was that we saw traditional activity going on also when the meter was responding as well. So I need to mention that. So we would hear like knocking, we would hear like a knock sound, but the meter would, prior to hearing the knock, the meter would start to spike, and then you'd hear like the knock sound, and then you would hear the meter peak, and then it would come back down. So it did this a lot. So I realize, as I have been in the forest enough to know, I realize that all the knocks and pops going on around you are not Bigfoot. Okay, we realize that. So let's just get rid of that as it is. Sometimes knocks can occur simply because trees check and they crack and they make internal sounds. And I believe Max was down here in the Green Swamp, and he had made a video about, he was sitting in a location out there at McNeil, and right next to him there was this big tree that just made this like he said, like a baseball bat type sound, and it just cracked. But the phenomena that I'm talking about is when you can call out and ask for a knock, and then you get a knock sound in reply. What is that? What is that's going on? And so these are some of the things that we hear, and we're using devices to try to be able to see if there are correlations with what we are traditionally hearing. Bigfoot researchers, Bigfoot enthusiasts will say, oh, they make knocks because, that's what apes do or what orangutans do. But I'm gonna tell you, I think there's more things out there that are making the knock sounds than just typical Bigfoot running around out there, Sasquatch, whatever you would like to call it. I think a lot of this stuff is straight up paranormal stuff that's going on. And so, attachments and hitchhiker effect and the rest of these things is what we're talking about. I have found out that when you are in areas of high strangeness, phenomena starts to occur. So collecting the data in these areas of high strangeness to identify correlations is what this is all about. Okay, trying to collect data to see if you can find correlations with physical and, you know, and if paranormal things start happening, on what is happening with the what is it? It's pretty neat. They're riding with a dog. What is happening in the electromagnetic frequency spectrum? So I'll talk about that on my next stop. I'm going to put in another half mile, or another maybe another mile or so, 1.5 miles, and I'll talk about the electromagnetic frequency spectrum. I think a lot of people just, you know, need to know a little bit more about that in layman terms. When you're ruck marching, some of the things that we do when you're in the Army was when you take breaks, you have to be smart about how you take breaks when you're backpacking a lot of weight. And what I mean by a lot of weight is traditionally most people do not go past, most people that hike in the backcountry normally do not go past probably about 35 pounds. So I got 45 pounds on me right now, and 5 liters of water is what I'm carrying in my backpack. And so you can't take too long of a break. If you take too long a break, then your muscles just cool down too much, and then you are like starting all over again. So you got to be able to take a break, be able to refresh enough, and be able to keep going and keep the muscles rejuvenated. And look at this little guy right here. Ain't he neat? This trail is full of these tortoises. They're really neat creatures, and they'll hiss at you. And he doesn't like to be disturbed, so we'll just leave him alone. But yeah, you know what we would do in the Army whenever we're hiking long distances in the Army. What you would do is, you know, you hit the ground and you lay on your stomach. You lay on your stomach and you pop your feet up, just for 30 seconds, a minute, or whatever. And laying down like that and popping the feet up at the knees will allow the blood to start coming out of the feet. So too much blood pooling in certain muscle groups, certain parts of the feet, will yield blisters. If you get blisters, you know, we're all not stupid. If you get blisters, you're becoming a walking wounded person already. So that's what you gotta try to avoid. So what I'm doing, I have something that I really think that's, and this is no endorsement whatsoever at all. I just use their product because I like them. I like their product. But I'm using right now Darn Tough socks is what I usually use when I go out into the wilderness. But I'm using the sock called Light Hiker is what it's called, and it's like 40, you know, it's got the merino wool. It's like 40-something%, merino wool 47%, I think, and the rest of it's nylon, some spandex mixed in. But man, I'm telling you, it's an awesome sock. Awesome sock. I'm not having any hot spots or anything at all. I mean, I'm sure if I was increasing my speed, I would probably get some hot spots that would develop. But you know, especially being at 56 years old, I mean, who would have thought I'd be still doing this stuff at 56 years old? And so it's good cardio for your body, I'll say that. It's very good cardio, makes my blood pressure come down. So I think if you guys out there incorporate some backpacking into your daily lives, you'll be able to find out that your blood pressure also comes down. Because most men as they age, most people, men in particular for sure, our arteries will harden, and that's predominantly one of the main reasons behind high blood pressure. So some people get high blood pressure, some don't. I think most men do. So guys, put a backpack on, get the heart rate up, and do it, man. You'll find out that it helps. I'm really finding out that I can go for, man, I wake up in the morning and my blood pressures are normal. and I'm only on a light dose of medication. I don't want to be on a heavy dose. So my doctor agrees with me trying to find ways to get off the stuff. But she says you got to watch the injuries, because at your age you're going to become more injury prone, which is true. And but man, we did this stuff in the Army. We called it rucking. And dude, guys, it works, man. Put a rucksack on and beat it out. Do you 3 miles, do you 4 miles, 3 miles. Every weekend, you're going to find out it works wonders. Okay, so enough of my chattering. Let's keep going. There I go. I forgot to hit resume on my watch. Man, I've probably walked maybe, I don't know, a third of a mile or so. I'm just going to mess up my mileage count. So I'll have to look at this when I get back. So I know my overall mileage. I turned around at like 2.62 miles. So even if I make it all the way back, that's still going to be, you know, like 5.25, something like that, miles. It'll be over 5 miles, which is fine. Okay, I'll take another pause to explain some radio frequency. The importance of radio frequency. I'll get into a little bit more about how to maybe explain some of these things. The importance of radio frequency along the electromagnetic spectrum is the basis of the human information age. It is how we convey information by means of using and exploiting the electromagnetic frequency spectrum, that portion of it. What I would like to clarify with this is that there are things that people need to understand, or rather you need to understand, when it comes to radiation, ionizing radiation and non-ionizing radiation in regards to the whole band. All right, so as people use basically electricity, as people explain electricity and the behavior of it is explained normally in water and a pipe and water or a water hose. I think the same thing can be used to explain electromagnetism, because electromagnetism has the principles of electricity and magnetism also. It exhibits the principles of how it oscillates in the wave. So basically you have, let's use the water hose for example. You have a water hose, and on the lower end, in the lower end of the frequency, the extreme low frequency, you have, for example, brain waves operate on just the hertz level, very, very low frequency, very low oscillation. But yet when you look at it in the water hose, for an example, look at it as like how brain waves function, how the heart functions, how our bodies function. And like a water hose, and water just drips, okay? Water just drips steadily a little bit. There's very little pressure, very little oscillation involved. It's just enough to sustain life and be able to carry on life. If you had to feed a plant, for an example, dripping the water, and it feeds it little by little. It doesn't harm the plant, it gives it life. So if you follow the same principle along the electromagnetic spectrum, and as you increase pressure, and in this case increase the frequency, you know, of the wave comes like this, and then it also goes like, you know, I can't make it no faster, but the extreme would be gamma waves as opposed to like brain waves. So, and as you increase along the spectrum, we have what we call the radio frequency part of the spectrum. Radio frequency is we identify it as. It doesn't mean when we're out in Bigfooting that, oh my goodness, they laugh it up and, oh, you think Bigfoot has radio frequencies. You can't think of it like that. We're trying to basically identify the phenomena that's occurring around us using instruments. And because our phones are being, evidently our phones are acting up, and they're being interfered with, or they're being exploited somehow. And the phone is just an indication of something going on when the misbehavior occurs. So along the band, you have the radio frequency, and humans exploit this part of the band with devices that we have built called radios, and that's why it's just called radio frequency. You can't look at it as like there's a radio going on around us, or Bigfoots are using radios. Ridiculous, Chris. This is nonsense. No, you can't look at it in that manner. You have to look at it as like what's going along the EMF spectrum is what we're trying to measure. And as you pass radio frequency, you get to the higher levels, and it finishes off with SHF, super high frequency, and you're around 3,300 gigahertz. And then so you basically get into the infrared portions, and you get the visible light portion, and you get into the X-rays, and then you get into the gamma rays. And so as I explained it, like a drip, drip, drippity drop feeding the plant, just very little to sustain life. And on the very extreme end of radio, or not radio frequency, but the EMF spectrum, on the very extreme is gamma. And so you have to look at that as like the oscillation of the frequency is happening so fast. It's happening in the terahertz and in the petahertz. So fast, trillions, we're talking trillions of cycles. It is so intense. That part of it is considered ionizing radiation, and that is what damages the human body, because it's coming out in such intensity. If you look at it like the water hose, it's coming out with such intensity, it basically cuts through and damages and manipulates the DNA structure in our cells. So if you use the water hose effect, and if you turn on so much pressure in the water hose to where you're at the gamma side of it, basically the water can destroy and cut through things. And we've all seen this with high pressure water hoses, and how they're able to do blasting and cut through stone and cut through objects and things like this with such intensity with water. And so that's basically just a little bit of what I'm trying to explain, and maybe using the water hose, so people could basically relate to that. And I hope I'm not being too layman or too simplistic with it, but it's just trying to put it out there, and how this whole spectrum is going on. The spectrum has been here along with us for eons. The electromagnetic spectrum has been along with us for eons. It's always been on the Earth, and it occurs in natural occurrences. It occurs in space with cosmic radiation. And radiation is really nothing more than how it's explained. It's like how energy is radiated, propagated, so to speak, how it moves through a medium, and the intensity of it, the strength of it, and these waves, they always form, these particles form a wave. And so that is basically how you can explain the radiation part of it, how it propagates and how it emits from the source. And so, like I said, remember, you have ionizing radiation, which causes damage, and you have the non-ionizing. What we call radio frequency is non-ionizing, and it doesn't supposedly damage, although that is still debated to some extent today, that it doesn't do good. It doesn't do too much of it at certain frequencies, doesn't do well with the brain. And some people are trying to relate to it to be able to cause cancer. And so, but that's up, like I said, that's up to debate, and basically they strike it down a lot, in my opinion, because the cell phone industry and the industry when it comes to using Wi-Fi communications is so huge and such trillions of dollars. I don't think we're ever going to probably see solid, substantial evidence proving that part of radio frequency causes harm to human bodies. I saw enough U.S. Army manuals to know that you can't get near warning. You'd see all these in our manuals. Warning, and don't get within 20 inches of a transmitting antenna. we saw this all the time, because you can get burns, you can get all kind of things from this. And I spent my whole career in the U.S. Army, you know, with radios and so forth and all that stuff. So I know it can cause damage to your body, in spite of what they say about it. So hopefully I have explained hopefully I explained the whole thing, that, you know, radio frequency is merely just what man created. The device is called radio. It doesn't mean that there's a radio going on around us at all. It just means that there is presence of that particular energy happening, going on around us, whether this comes from our phones or whether it's coming from other sources. Do I think the phones are part of it? Yeah, of course, the phones can be part of it. When my phone is trying to mysteriously dial somebody or come off screen lock on its own and start surfing the internet on its own, yeah, it's going to push out. It's going to try to you know, push out data. You know, that's going to be also detected. But the interesting thing is what caused the phone to do this to begin with, and so that's what we're trying to measure. All right. So hopefully I explained that enough without having to repeat myself. I know I repeat myself a lot of times. But onward with the hike. Let's finish this hike and let's keep going. So what is my, this is something I want to add to it. What is my definition of what I would call a high strangeness area? Areas that you would normally hear, have encounters, and you hear vocals, and not just, you know, thinking you're hearing things, but you actually, your equipment picks it up and you hear vocals. Sometimes you hear it with your ears. Getting shoved, getting touched, getting pushed, things happening to you. Maybe you camped out there and you have a dream that just became too real. You're seeing things, you see shadow things, you know, all these things, sightings. And so what has all that's got to do with it is because I have said I think I've collected enough data to be able to point me in a direction that in areas of high strangeness, we collect this evidence, and we collect the evidence of voices, getting pushed, getting touched. You can come across an occasional footprint. You can find what you call a Bigfoot footprint from time to time. Not often, especially in Florida, not often, because our substrate is horrible for leaving residual footprints. But having things thrown at you, I mean, if something's out here and a rock lands on me, or a rock flies by me, then it's not no animals throwing that. There's either a person out there that threw something at me or not. I mean, it's as simple as that. So these are areas of what I call areas of high strangeness. Orbs, all these things. Some people think that orbs are them, and some people subscribe to the thought that orbs work in conjunction with them. These balls of light that dance around and do things. Some people feel that it is a means for them to come closer in on us and, so to speak, have a closer look, spy on us. And remote viewing is what I'm getting at. And this is an idea that I came up with. Many other people should get credit for this, because they've developed these ideas. Some Native Americans think that that's what's going on when you have orbs in relation to having a sighting that's going on. It is basically them using something, all right? And what has it got to do with EMF? Well, you know, it emits light. That's in the EMF spectrum as well. So we have to have instruments to be able to help us identify what's going on, than just seeing, oh, there was an orb and then I had a sighting. So there's more to it. We have to find ways of being sophisticated enough to be able to identify what's going on with the phenomena, right? Yeah, so I'm back at the truck. So I'm over 5.02, that's for sure. But you see the heart rate goes up into the 140s when you're increasing your mileage. But I'm more like, I would think about 5.35 miles total, or maybe more than that.